Good morning, everyone. A special welcome to the class of 2024-25 who are joining us for the very first time today. On behalf of all my colleagues here, a very warm welcome to you. We hope you will find the time to settle into the campus soon. We look forward to meeting you in classes. Feel free to come to us. We will be meeting later today during the academic orientation. I request Professor Kathleen Madrowski, Dean of Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, to kindly deliver the welcome address and take the proceedings forward from here. Kathleen.
Hi, good morning. I'm really pleased to see some familiar faces and so many new faces. So welcome to all of the students of the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities and for the class of 2024. We have a wonderful program set up for you today. We're honored to have the Vice Chancellor with us, the Registrar with us, and our guest speaker, Ms. Jindal Thomas, who is a filmmaker. And some people wonder, well, why do we have a filmmaker? Because we are distinguished by our interdisciplinary way of looking at education. And I know across the years that many of you have developed a visual imagination that you'll use in your work. You also have discovered that through interdisciplinarity, there are many ways to say things, to learn things, to know things. So these ways of knowing will be something that we will be working with more and more. I know that we have our faculty here as well. I'm very happy to see that everyone is here whom we've seen before, and you'll have a chance to meet others. Many of you who were supposed to come were stopped by the rain and flooding and everything, and that's going to be a problem that we'll have to deal with for a few days. So without further ado, and we'll have a chance to talk later when we discuss the different aspects of your school, we would like to present our Vice Chancellor.
All right, very, very good morning to all of you. My name is Rajkumar. I'm the founding Vice Chancellor of the University. I just wanted to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the incoming class of 2024 of the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. Let me begin by saying that congratulations to each one of you for having taken admission to the OP Jindal Global University and its School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. I also want to extend a warm welcome to all our faculty members. Some of them have joined newly to the university, but also others who have returned back from their summer break. And I also want to thank the leadership team of the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, Professor Kathleen Madrowski, the Dean, and Joini as well. It's indeed a very special moment because this is an annual event that we all are looking forward to, which is the commencement lecture of each of our schools in the university. Sometimes when we create traditions and practices, one doesn't realize the long-term consequences of it. In the year 2009, when we started the university, I said we should always have the beginning of the year with a commencement lecture where we welcome all the new students. And of course, I was the Vice Chancellor, so we had one school, and we began that tradition. And then in 2010, we had two schools, two commencement lectures. And then now, 15 years later, now we have 12 schools and 3 institutes and online and other programs. So I have to be part of 16 commencement lectures in this week. So did not realize that this will be the consequence of that one idea in 2009. But it's such a pleasure because I get to meet all the new students of the university, nearly 3,000 of them who would be joining, who have joined in various programs and various schools. I also want to congratulate all the students, especially the ones come as undergraduate students, because I know that you went through a difficult phase of completing your high school. You took the challenging, examinations, your high school 12th standard examinations, and then the pressure of entrance examinations. Thank God you didn't have to take NEET examination. You were saved from the NEET. And in many ways, you have decided to pursue liberal arts studies. So I want to begin by asking a question. How many of you have watched the movie Three Idiots? I hope no student has missed watching it. Is there any student who has not watched this movie? Because we might have to reconsider admission if you had not watched the movie. But the reason I wanted to refer to that is we are all part of the Three Idiots generation. I mean, I come from a place called Chennai, where if you are a half-serious student, you better aspire to become a doctor or an engineer. I have 22 cousins in my family. All of them are doctors and engineers. And pretty much, I was supposed to become one because my mother is a doctor. My brother aspired to become a doctor, and he did become a doctor. And I was wanting to do something else. And when I decided to study law, on one particular day, so many of my relatives turned up at my home completely unannounced, and it was a middle-class home. I was in one of the rooms with my brother trying to hear what these 20 relatives are about to talk to my parents. It was a Saturday morning. And then after 15 minutes of pin-drop silence, my uncle asked my father, what happened to Raj? He was a good student. Because obviously a good student is not expected to study law. And then my aunt said, he was not good enough to become a doctor, but at least I thought he will become an engineer. And then another said, doctors and engineers, you need to be smart, intelligent, and hardworking. He was never cut out for it. But we were hoping he'll become a chartered accountant. But why law? And then, of course, that became very gloomy. And then after some time, my relatives consoled my parents that these are very difficult times for you as a family. We are with you. Something might happen to him. He should be okay in the years to come. Then many years later, when I got the Rhodes Scholarship to go to Oxford, the Hindu newspaper published an article about me. And then one of my uncles called up and told my father that, he couldn't become a doctor, but at least he got something. So, I hope you are still not unhappy or whatever. Whenever I think about that story, I was wondering what would have happened if I decided to become, let's say, a historian or an anthropologist or a philosopher. Unka to number hi nahi aaya. So that world, that India that many of us are part of has dramatically changed. And that is what we see here today, right here in our campus. I'm so delighted to be part of this particular commencement lecture, not only because of the fact that it's a very special school for us, because it encompasses the entire vision of the university in all its forms and manifestations, because it kind of brings together the idea of liberal studies, but also we have amazing people in this school who are representative of the entire gamut of the university. That's why the degree program itself is quite unique. While we have majors and minors and concentrations that you will be part of, but the idea of being part of a school that is deeply committed to the study of liberal arts, humanities, social sciences is something truly extraordinary. And that reflects the kind of India that we are seeing now, and we have come a long way from the India that I was part of. And so it's quite refreshing to see so many of you who have chosen to be part of this particular program. I also want to mention that we are part of a larger university community because we are an interdisciplinary institution. We have 12 schools here, a law school, a business school, a school of international affairs, a school of government and public policy, a school of liberal arts and humanities, a school of journalism and communication, a school of art and architecture, a school of banking and finance, a school of environment and sustainability, a school of psychology and counseling, a school of languages and literature, and the most recent school that we established, the School of Public Health and Human Development. In addition to these 12 schools, we have 4 major institutes, including the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences, the Jindal Institute of the Jindal India Institute, the Jindal Institute of Leadership Development and Executive Education, and the institution which focuses especially on the idea of education called the International Institute for Education, Research and Capacity Building. I'm particularly delighted that this year we've also announced our own plans to move into STEM education and progressively into medicine as well. If you had seen my email yesterday, we made a major announcement for the establishment of the Jindal Center for Digital Sciences, where we are in the process of launching a master's in artificial intelligence and data science. We have recruited some of the most outstanding people who specialize in quantum physics and mathematics and other such disciplines. So in some ways, our university is poised to be able to moving in the direction of STEM education in the future. But then we are also very fortunate that we are moving in the direction of STEM education on the foundations of strong liberal arts, humanities, social sciences, and professional schools such as law and architecture. I also want to tell you that you're also part of a larger community. Our faculty members are over 1,200 in number. They come from 51 countries in the world and all states and union territories of India. Our students actually end up coming from over 100 countries and all states and union territories of India. So in some ways, you are part of a very diverse community. You might end up being part of a school or a program. You might have roommates from different parts of India or beyond. But the idea is to recognize the deep sense of diversity and pluralism that is embedded in our institution. As I mentioned, today is a special day because we have a very special person with us. I want to extend a warm welcome to Ms. Rintu Thomas, a distinguished filmmaker. I just read her bio, and it's almost, it sounds as if that one life is not enough. At a very young age, she has already accomplished so much and has had a powerful influence on not only the nature of filmmaking, but also the kind of films she has ended up making and how it has caught the public, both Indian and international imagination for this type of filmmaking. I'm deeply grateful to her for taking out time to come here and to deliver this commencement lecture. We will be missing Mrs. Sushmit Ghosh, who has not been able to be with us for some personal reasons, but nevertheless, we are very delighted that Ms. Rintu Thomas is here. I want to end by saying that you are, as students, in extraordinary times when there is so much can be done and there are so much problems and challenges that both India and the world faces. At one level, we have extraordinary demographic situation that you are part of. We are a country of 1.5 billion people, and we have achieved now the distinction of being the world's largest populated country. But that aspect of India doesn't fully capture what we are. We are a country of 1 billion people who are less than 35 years of age. That alone should, kind of mind-boggling for people around the world to wrap around the fact that 1 billion of us are less than 35. At the dawn of Indian independence, our life expectancy was approximately 32, and today it is 72. And United Nations has estimated that in the next few decades, it will end up becoming more than 80. This essentially means that when most parts of the Western world will become older, when most parts of Eastern world, including China and Japan, will become older, India will be younger and will be younger for a longer time. Young Indians like you will be shaping the future of India and the future of the world. And that also means that it's important that you receive transformative education that will prepare you for the future. In fact, you ought to be receiving multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary education. For all you know, that we are teaching you and preparing you for jobs that do not exist today. In that process, and that is why it's important for you to develop your critical thinking abilities, your analytical thinking abilities, your interdisciplinary approach towards learning that the liberal arts school practices, and also the development of variety of skills and experiences and experiential learning that the liberal arts school offers. All these things, I believe, will put you in good stead as you look at the future. I know for sure that the outstanding faculty members of the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities and the very benevolent Dean, Professor Kathleen Modrowski, along with her leadership team, joining and others, will leave no stone unturned to be able to help you, support you, and mentor you to achieve your fullest potential. My colleague and registrar, Professor Sridhar Patnaik, and I are there to further support you in helping you achieve all your goals and aspirations. I also want to mention that this is a fully residential community, which essentially means that besides doing academic things, I want you to be part of a wider social, intellectual, and cultural life of the institution, and that includes sports and other extracurricular activities that I hope you will be part of. And so, in a way, you are embarking on this extraordinary journey which has, unlimited potential. And so long as you can make the best use of these opportunities, you will also achieve your fullest potential. Congratulations and welcome to the incoming batch of 2024 of the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Professor Siraj Kumar. May I now request the Registrar of the University, Professor Sridhar Patnaik, to kindly address the class of 2024.
Thank you very much, Gargi. Good morning, everyone. All the newly admitted students who have joined the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities, a warm welcome to everyone. I join the Vice Chancellor and the Dean of the school and all my colleagues at the university in welcoming you all. I also have the pleasure to welcome Ms. Rintu Thomas, who is the distinguished commencement speaker this morning. And before I say anything, I just would like to share that this is the kind of an experience which you are going to get now, the pedagogical experience by being a part of the School of Liberal Arts and Humanities and the OP Jindal Global University, wherein you'll have quite an enriching ecosystem. And the Vice Chancellor rightly remarked on what all you can expect and what all we can offer. So you will have our guidance and support in abundance. But I would like to just share that you are making a very important transition from senior secondary or the high school, as they call it, into a university system. And I would like to appeal to each one of you to be kind to yourself and take one step at a time. And even when you are sort of experiencing the new class, your fellow colleagues and your peers, there might be some situations wherein you might have some anxious moments, but don't be too harsh with yourself. Everything takes time. So even your settling down academically or otherwise will take time. So that's where you will have the guidance from the school, from the dean's office, from the dean herself and her leadership team, and the faculty colleagues, and even all the administrative staff members will be there to guide you and to support you in terms of your immersion and orientation. And most importantly, when you even have any kind of concerns pertaining to your health, be it physical health or mental health or whatsoever, the university is having a well-endowed system, and you should reach out to them, and even your school officers will help you. And needless to say, me and my office will always be there to support you. But be that as it may, this is one university wherein teaching is not going to happen only within the precincts of a classroom, but the entire ecosystem is going to be there to help you learn and grow academically, intellectually, socially, personally, and even emotionally. I would request each one of you to maximize on the advantages that are going to be given to you in terms of the lectures, workshops, seminar series, and even the research conferences that will be held for the students of the School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. But as a university which has a chief characteristic of multidisciplinarity, you will have access to activities that are offered and organized by other schools and institutes of the university. And if your schedule permits and whatever interests you might have, we welcome you even to join those activities. And in addition to that, you can become part of the student-led societies. And over here, I must make a very important remark and even thank and congratulate all the students who are part of the Buddy Project organizing team and the student volunteers who worked tirelessly over the last few days to ensure that you have a warm welcome and you settle down, and who were even part of the organizing committee of the commencement lecture. So overall, you'll have quite an enriching and an engaging time. But I would like to echo the Vice Chancellor in requesting you to be more responsible in terms of following the university regulations, and even to identify and to understand and to acknowledge and to appreciate the diversity and the heterogeneity around you, so that you become responsible university citizens and you are going to have a pleasant and an engaging time for the duration of your program over here, and even much beyond that, because all the qualities that you're going to develop here over the next few years, that's going to be helpful to you both in your life and your work. So on this particular note, I wish you all the very best in the subsequent years, starting from now onwards, in this academic year and the years that are going to follow. And even I would also like to congratulate the Dean and the leadership team and all the faculty members for the start of the new academic session. Congratulations and welcome you all. And I also thank Ms. Rintu Thomas for taking time out to be here with us this morning to inspire all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik. I now call upon the Dean of the school, Professor Madrowski, to please come and introduce the distinguished speaker for this commencement lecture today, Professor Madrowski.
Hello. And what a pleasure to have everyone here and to have our distinguished filmmaker being with us today. This is really an honor, and you're going to see how interesting her career is. I'm going to read her accomplishments to you, and you're going to see evidence of her work when you see the clips coming up that will be shown. You'll only be seeing the clips today of her award-winning film, Writing in Fire, but we hope to have a full screening of her work one day soon, along with her co-filmmaker as well, Sushmit Ghosh. So let me give you a few, and this is only a fraction of her accomplishments. It says, Rintu Thomas is an Academy Award-nominated documentary filmmaker and director-producer based in India. Her Peabody-winning documentary, Writing in Fire, was co-directed with Sushmit Ghosh, is the first Indian feature documentary to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. This is, if any of you have an idea of the competition out there, this is incredible. The Academy Award and the Peabody Award, both of them are just outstanding. The film also won the Audience Award and Special Jury Award in the World Cinema Documentary Competition at the 2021 Sundance Film Festival. Sundance, if you don't know, is really the cutting-edge place to present work, and either can make you or break you historically and your legacy. Thomas is also known for directing Timbuktu, a short documentary which won the National Film Award for Best Environmental Film at the 60th National Film Award, and Dilly, which was a documentary and received the Best Documentary at the Jaipur Film Festival in 2012. She is the co-founder of the award-winning production company Black Ticket Films. In 2021, she was awarded the DIA Courage Under Fire Award for the body of her work. Her professional work has won support from various organizations, including the Japan Foundation's HANDS Fellowship in 2016, Sundance Institute's Fellowship in 2018, Skull Stories of Change Fellow in 2019 and the DIA Logan Elevate Honorary Award in 2021. So let's give her a hand and really pay attention to the work and be very thankful that Rintu Thomas has really elected to come and be with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's a bit embarrassing when only your highest achievements are mentioned and not the failures. When you have an image of you yourself looking at you, so it's a bit strange. But thank you so much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure. I really wish when Kathleen was reading, if my father was here today, he would maybe stop regretting that I didn't do my MBA, which he kept saying until 2 years back. And my most public achievement is when he actually stopped saying that. In fact, when I called him from New York during the Academy campaign of this film, the New York Times had just announced Writing with Fire as a NYT Critics Pick. It's a really big deal in the world of films. It's thank you. But I say that because it was such a big deal for Sushmit and me. I was evening time in New York. I called my parents. It was a video call. And I told my father, I had to explain because my family doesn't come from the world of cinema at all. So I had to explain what a big deal it was. And he was just like, that's great, Mole, that's great. But when is this coming in Malayalam Manorama? And so you realize all your achievements are always relative. Some of it just doesn't matter to anybody else that's not you. But for you, that's really a moment of, how do I put it? It's taken a lot to reach here, many negotiations, many understandings of how power structures work, many rooms in which I've been made aware of my gender in ways that I've not been very flattered about, many rooms where my identity as someone who grew up in North India but actually could be a Madrasi was also, So it's taken many negotiations. So it's all been very gratifying. And I know the role of the person doing the commencement lecture is to say, is to inspire you all, but I intend to do no such thing. Because I feel like when you're at the cusp of starting something new, especially in a new space with new people, a whole new experience, it's extremely valuable to think about where you came from and what brings you here, and what has taken for people around you to really let you be. And I think holding your story close to oneself is maybe what I have realized stays the longest. And so I thought it'll be interesting to share my journey with you all. You haven't watched, a lot of people here haven't watched Writing with Fire, so to base the entire piece on the film wouldn't be fair because you won't have context. So perhaps we can do that once the film is screened at a later stage. But I do have other stuff to show, because when we celebrate, these great moments of professional victory, what it hides is around a decade or a half of quiet work. And sometimes that work is what I feel more proud about, and that feels mine, and I feel like I would love to share the journey that brought me to Writing with Fire. Also wanted to mention that my colleague and partner Sushmit, who really wanted to be here, couldn't be here. We've had a family emergency. But if the film screened later, he'd be very happy to be here. Okay, so just to start, I want you to sort of think of the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the word tamarind or imli or puli in Malayalam. Just keep that to yourself, whatever it is that comes to your mind when I say that flavor. We'll bookmark it, come back to it later. When I think of tamarind, it is a burst of memories for me. I grew up in Delhi, in West Delhi, but every year, 2 months of our vacation school break used to be in Kerala, in the district of Kottayam, where my parents come from. And that was the time when I used to really be on my grandparents' tail. My grandparents were farmers, rice and rubber. And for this city kid going back to a village, tailing my grandfather through the rice fields, through rubber plantations, and it was just a world of wonder. Because have you ever seen how rubber is tapped? You cut across the bark of the rubber tree, which is a very sturdy, big tree. And when you cut across it every single morning, the sap, the white sap comes out. And in those parts, they keep an empty shell of coconut tied to the tree, and the sap sort of collects. And it's so artistic, it's so cinematic, it's also scientific, because they just cut enough for that depth of the coconut shell to be full in about a few hours. They do that to every single tree. He used to do that to every single tree. And then about after breakfast, we used to go back. I mean, he used to go, I used to tail him. And he didn't pay me much attention. I don't know what is it with Malayali grandparents. They're unlike they're unlike the grandparents of cinema, my husband's family. They're so, so giving, so loving. Generally, and I'm making a very broad generalization, Malayali grandparents are generally like, yeah, okay, you're here, that's lovely. There is no pulka kalo beta, it's very different. So I used to tail him, and then you collect that sap in a large bucket. It is then put into different vessels. You add chemicals. After I think a few hours or days, now I forget, they become sheets, loose sheets. You go to a mill, you process them into rubber sheets. These rubber sheets are then supposed to dry out. So in the kitchen, they are hung so that from the flames of the hearth, they kind of like dry. There's the distinct smell that follows you around the kitchen because of that rubber thing. And then once that dries out is when the rubber sheets are sold. And that's what makes your tires. Isn't that fascinating? Have you ever wondered where your tires come from? My grandfather's sap tree. And so it was so much hard work, but it felt like this family that didn't have too many resources, that didn't have electricity for the longest time. My grandparents felt like extremely resourceful people who were always busy and growing their own food. The family income came from agriculture, etc. Cut to summer vacations, and you go back to school in Delhi. And what do the CBSE textbooks teach you? What is the picture of rural India, at least when I was in school, that they taught us? People in rural India live in poverty, are defined by lack of access to education, nutrition, health, are dependent on government schemes to sustain. So there is this image of people who are generally passive and recipients of government benefits, who are not really resourceful or intelligent or smart, and just are the poor cousins of people in cities. That's the impression I got from the textbook, which was so contrary to my reality. But I can imagine, and of course, this is all me processing this in retrospect. But as a kid, I was just like, oh my God, my classmates must think my grandparents are really poor, illiterate, passive people. And I never shared these stories. I own these stories now, much more. with a lot more fondness. But at that time, I was just like, let me not tell anybody where I went for my summer vacation. Because I went to some poor part of the country where everybody else went to Vietnam and Switzerland and came back with scrapbooks. I had a scrapbook of grasses of Kerala. So, so that didn't, that didn't feel cool at all. And I relate this story only to say how language shapes us. Um, Language shapes bias. And in the space that we all work in the arts, language is everything. How we define, identify, describe emotions, people, subjects is everything. In the world of cinema, it expands a little more because our job is to bring to life words on paper through visuals. When we make films, every shot is actually like a word on paper, and every scene is like a paragraph, and every film is like a novel. So it's really a lot of thinking that you have to through, because we all come from certain privileges. We all have seen certain prejudices in our life. We've all encountered some kind of discrimination, whoever we are, at some point in our life so far, and we all carry our biases. But as practitioners in our fields, how is it that we are careful about how we use our experiences and language is the reminder that I would actually give you, because that's what I encounter on an everyday basis in my line of work. And now I've forgotten my second point. What was it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this whole episode, eventually, I think, in my little mind, when the idea of what do you want to do in life happened, I was really bad at math. So I would have flunked my higher school. So I chose to do commerce without math, which in so stupid, but with computer science, C++. But I'm grateful to my parents for having actively taken a career choice that would have led me nowhere but to Delhi University and literature. So that's what I studied. And then when the decision of what to do, what's the career path, I was very clear that I wanted to travel. But I come from a fairly traditional conservative family, so my parents would have never let me just travel, go backpack for a year. No. So then I figured that if I have a job that lets me travel and meet people and have experiences, so I put this Venn diagram of travel, meeting people, earning money, because I was super critical, my family, financial independence. So in that, somewhere, media became like this, that ticked every box. But I didn't have any references. We weren't, like, about 15 years back, there were very few women in media. Like, if you said mujhe media mein jana hai, inevitably the first question would be, oh, you want to be the next Barkha Dutt? That was the only frame of reference. And so thankfully, I got through the entrance exam at the Mass Communication Research Center in Jamia for masters. And that is where I found the love of my life, which is cinema. I had only watched Bollywood nonsense up until then on television, which I loved. I own it. It's nonsensical, but it's sheer genius. And I had access to, of course, Malayalam cinema. But my mind was just opened to this whole world of world cinema, of really Indian cinema, of documentaries, of different kinds of documentaries. And I was in a space with students, or batchmates from all across the country, such a diverse class. People came from dairy technology, people came from literature, people came from theater, people came from big cities, small cities, class and caste. Like, it was just an explosion. And the greatest thing about Jamia is that they don't allow you to make your friends. They just airdrop you into different groups. Go make your friends. And so you're in a batch of 50, you end up working and interacting with everybody. And I recently used this example elsewhere, but I feel it's relevant here. It's one thing to be in a diverse space, but it's a completely different thing to be able to relate to each other. Because even in a diverse space, you might have all noticed, right? We end up making friends with people like us because that's comfortable. There's nothing wrong in that. It's just a natural human thing. So it was raining one day, and I was just thrilled about it because rains in Delhi are always a contested feature. So I was thrilled about it. I was enjoying the rain, and my classmate from Samastipur was there with me, and he was not very thrilled about the rain. I was just like, "What's wrong with you? Why do you look so morose?" And he said, "Because ये बिन मौसम बिन बादल की बरसात है और this is going to ruin my father's crop." And almost like it was just a very meta moment for me because I sort of like stepped out of my body. It was a very everyday moment, but felt very, very important because we both were experiencing the same truth. It is raining. But we experienced two very different realities. And that has been such an important part of my work because we, in the world of liberal arts, the non-sciences world, it's very experience-based, right? And yet there is this exploration of the truth. It's a very hard journey to understand that there is no singular truth, right? I'm standing here, I'm dressed a certain way, I'm speaking a certain way. There's so many of you here. The truth of the matter is you're all watching me speak, but the way you're all processing me is based on your realities. Some of you might walk out and say, "Oh my God, thank God it's over." Some of you might say, "Oh my God, that was so interesting." And some of you might just say, that didn't do anything to me. But the fact is, the truth is, I spoke. It's just, and that is really, really critical in just, you'll all come to it. But then the work that this school is going to train you in, the intersectionality of reality and truth will be, you'll encounter that on an everyday basis. And I feel that to be open enough to have multiple realities, very matrix-esque, is super important because simply put, what it allows us to believe is that I am not the center of the universe. There are different perspectives. There are different approaches to the same thing, and I should be able to respect that. Accepting is a big journey. That's a big ask. But to be in a same space, in a classroom, in student bodies, in cultural societies, in the real world, doing the real job, to be able to say that, yes, this is my reality, this is where I come from, this is how I see things, but also it's possible that somebody else might have a completely different view, and that's okay. To be able to hold space and say, that's okay, is super. Life, no course is going to teach you that, but that's what the beauty of life is. And that's where my work has really centered itself. And I feel like it's time to maybe show something. So the first clip is from a film that I co-directed with Sushma. It's called Delhi. It's an 18-minute film. We'll only show the first 7 minutes. It's a film that I made very early on in my career, and it's a conversation on how do we understand development or the idea of home. And so this film is actually 5 stories put together. We'll watch the first one. And one thing I forgot to say is that when I started making documentaries was very uncool. Let me assure you, nobody wanted to watch docs. Now we all watch stuff on Netflix, and thank God for streaming. well, partly, thank God. But we have access to docs and we're watching global docs. In 2009, we didn't have any of that. And to make a career in documentaries, like people were just like, you got to be kidding us. There is no money to be made here. And that was a very different time. So the reason why Sushmit and I started Black Ticket Films straight out of Jamia is really to make documentaries cool. That was it. We felt like stories of real people have genuinely the power to communicate in a way that fiction doesn't. And so this film became sort of like a visual experiment. You'll see how and why we played around with subtitling. Anyway, just want you all to watch the first 7 minutes.
ग्राम भरी बड़ा पोस्ट बिरौल ये हमारा जिला हुआ दरभंगा बिहार में
हरचंदपुर बन के गाँव पोस्ट हमजेपुर पठान तहसील कादीपुर जिला सुल्तानपुर उत्तर प्रदेश यूपी
लोग शहर में इसलिए आते हैं ताकि वो सोचते हैं मैं आगे बढ़ सकूं, ज़िंदगी में थोड़ा कुछ बन सकूं, काम वाम भी करके घर बना सकूं, घर बसा सकूं, बच्चे को अपने परिवार को सही सही सलामत रख सकूं।
दिल्ली तो हम जानते नहीं हैं दिल्ली क्या होता है, दिल्ली जानते हैं, यही मेरा शहर है दिल्ली।
शहर किसको कहते हैं? जब हमने गांव में था तो यही सोचा दिल्ली कैसा है, किस तरह का है, वहाँ क्या चीज़ है। लोग बाग कहते थे कि भाई दिल्ली बहुत बढ़िया जगह है और वहाँ देश का राजधानी है। हमने कहा अच्छा भाई हम भी चलेंगे दिल्ली शहर देखने।
हिंदुस्तान में दिल्ली एक ऐसा शहर है जो गरीब से गरीब आदमी आकर के यहाँ रह सकता है, गुजारा कर सकता है और कमा खा सकता है। दिल्ली एक ऐसा शहर है, आए तो इस शहर में सपना पूरा करने की वजह से। सपनों को शहर है, सही कहते हैं।
ज़्यादा अगर हंसता है तो लगता है जैसे कि गुस्सा हो रहा है, और अगर गुस्सा होता है तो ऐसा लगता है जैसे कि अब तो बस इसके साथ जो मर्जी कर लो, इसको मार भी दो कुछ नहीं होगा। मेरा पक्का दोस्त वही है, दोस्ती नहीं भाई भी वही है, यहाँ पे सब कुछ वही है अब तो।
मैं पुरानी दिल्ली जामा मस्जिद पार्क नंबर 8 में रहता हूँ, वहीं सोता हूँ। बहुत सारे बिन गिनती के लोग सोते हैं, कितने सारे लोग होते हैं। हर ठंडी में 10-15 लोग मर ही जाते हैं क्योंकि उनके पास ओढ़ने का सामान नहीं होता है। पिछले 12 साल से हम इसी पार्क में रह रहे हैं, हमें पता है बस कैसे। हम तो बोलते हैं हमारे अलावा भगवान करे कोई ना आए यहाँ पर, बस हम ही हैं जो ऐसे ज़िंदगी काट, क्योंकि कोई भी नहीं काट सकता है।
यहाँ पे चहल पहल एनी टाइम रहती है, रात हो या दिन।
बहुत ही पागल जगह दिल्ली। इतनी सारी गाड़ियाँ और इतने सारे लोग, मतलब बहुत ही पागल जगह है। मैं उनको पिछले 1 साल से जानता हूँ। मतलब दोस्त तो होना बहुत ही ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि हमारी एक दूसरे की हेल्प करते रहते हैं। जब मैं छोटा था ना, तो मैंने अपनी मम्मी को भीख मांग के खिलाया। पहले कनार पुलिस सीपी ऐसे बहुत जगह जाता था, अब सिर्फ पार्क में रहता हूँ मैं। इतना पैसे नहीं होता हमारे पास जो वहाँ जाए। आइसक्रीम भी खाऊंगी तो 20 रुपए की है, वो 3 रुपए की आइसक्रीम मिल रही है यहाँ, वही खा लेते हैं। बच्चे सड़कों पर रहते हैं, उनको बहुत सारे खतरा होता है, जैसे सेवा कोटी है, वो पकड़ के ले जाती है, और पुलिस वाले वो मारते। अभी इतने छोटे हम, हमारे ऊपर अभी से जिम्मेदारी आ जाती है। यार पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे, कम्बल कहाँ से लेंगे, लैप कहाँ से लेंगे, खाना कहाँ से खाएंगे। बचपन निकल गया हमारा, पता ही नहीं चलता है। हमारे शरीर में कपड़े इतने गंदे होते हैं, लोग देख के बोलते हैं तो नहीं कैसा चोर है क्या है। उनका तो घर है, उनको मतलब ही नहीं है दूसरा घर हो या ना हो। मैं अपनी ज़िंदगी से ये चाहता हूँ हमारा एक घर हो, अपने परिवार को मैं सही से रख सकूँ और मैं भी खुद सही से रख सकूँ। वो वही रह सकता है जिसके 10,000 रुपये महीने की सैलरी हो, वही रह सकता है इस दिल्ली में, वही अपना घर बना के रह सकता है। घर होना बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है। अपना घर में जैसे भी रहो, पर पार्क में रह नहीं सकते ना ऐसे।
Yeah, we can start. So this is a longer part of the longer piece, which is 5 vignettes of the city. The next story, I think, is of the river. Then it was made during the Commonwealth Games, so a story about a child who loses her house to the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium that's built, and so on. But really, I wanted to share a very important facet of our work, which is really representation. How do you represent an idea about homelessness? And the big challenge that we have when we work with people is people, subjects, characters, whatever you want to call people who are in front of the camera, is that as filmmakers, we're mostly outside their reality. And we're always actually outsiders to that story. But we have the responsibility of representing them. And the big part of that responsibility is this this responsibility of defining them, you know. And I've always believed that for people to connect with each other, for you to connect with a stranger who you watch on screen, you don't connect with them because they are poor people or sad people, or people going through really extreme conditions in their lives. You connect with them because there's something interesting about them. And so we try and frame people's stories around who they are. We try and frame it around their personalities, their friendships. When I meet a farmer in a rural part of this country, I'm most interested in his love story most of the times. And that's how people open up. And that's not the first question I ask. But as we get to know each other, that's one of the things, and that always opens people's, minds up to you. They warm up to you because you're genuinely curious about who they are. How did they fall in love or not in love? who their best friends are. And that's how I like framing people on screen. And of course, there are larger challenges of farmer suicides or homelessness or these other social justice themes that I'm interested in. But it's very important for me that I invite an audience in an accessible way where they connect with my characters as human beings first. And another film that I wanted to show you quickly is called Tara Basanti. And these two women in their mid 60s broke every notion of ageism in my head. Because I had this unconscious bias of people after a certain age, are just elderly people. And so until I met these two, could we play that, please?
नाम ही शॉर्ट जैसा हो गया वो बसंती तारा एक ही का नाम कोई नहीं लेता दोनों का
लोग तो कंफ्यूज करते हैं कि ये तारा है ये बसंती है कौन है क्या
बाहर के लोग आएंगे तो एक ही को दो बार नमस्कार कर
नमस्कार और ठीक ठाक हाँ
नहीं नहीं बाय बाय यहाँ पर तो बिल्कुल भी रास्ता नहीं था
ये सारा उसी ने बनाया
पूरी डिजाइनिंग भी करी है बहुत अच्छा बनाया है पंचायत चुनाव की हम बात करें तो चुनाव तो पहले महिलाएं लड़ती ही नहीं थी पंचायत में आती ही नहीं थी
पुरुष लोग जो हैं बहुत हावी हो जाते हैं महिलाओं को कहीं पर भी आगे नहीं आने देते
और कभी कभी महिला सामाजिक दबाव के कारण खुद ही आगे नहीं बढ़ पाती क्यों छुपे हो भाई बाहर आओ
उसी उस वाला तुमने आ जाओ 4 बजे मैंने चुनावों का ही अनुभव किया मैंने भी पहले चुनाव लड़ा था सब लोगों ने सपोर्ट किया लेकिन अंत में मुझे आने ही नहीं दिया तो वहाँ से मुझे एक झटका जैसा भी लगा मैंने कहा महिलाओं के साथ इस तरह से काम करना चाहिए उनको सपोर्ट देना चाहिए
आप लोग कह रहे थे ना कि खुली बैठकों में हम प्रस्ताव रखेंगे तो प्रस्ताव क्या होता है आपको पता है क्या
हमारी जो नहर थी वो टूट गई है अभी वो रोड की वजह से तो वहाँ से सिंचाई विभाग को हम लिखेंगे प्रस्ताव उस जगह का नाम लिखेंगे प्रस्ताव संख्या डालेंगे उसमें कि ये काम होना है
थोड़ा सा हिंट देने की जरूरत होती है फिर तो पद में आने के बाद तो उसका व्यक्तित्व अपने आप निखर जाता है लोग उसका सम्मान फिर अपने आप ही करते हैं लोकतंत्र को जीवित रखना तो बराबरी बनाना समानता लाना बहुत जरूरी है संविधान में समानता का अधिकार दिया है कहाँ पर है फिर समानता हमारा काम तो पहले उसका नेतृत्व क्षमता विकास करना है मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकती हूँ उसे मैं सब कुछ कर सकती हूँ तक की ताकत दिलाना
एक तो पुष्पा से मिलना है हाँ वो पहले फोन उसने किया था कि दीदी आप जरूर आना दिक्कतें भी ज्यादा ही बता रही थी दिक्कतें भी बहुत बता रही
नहीं कर पाऊंगी क्योंकि समस्या होती है लोगों के
हाँ, वही समस्या हम जानना चाहते थोड़ा सा जो आपका संकोच है वो हटा दो वो आप में एक कला होनी चाहिए ठीक यही बात रखनी है कि अकेले मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकती हूँ मैं तो खाली आपने प्रधान बना दी लेकिन सहयोग जो गांव का नहीं होगा तो कैसे होगा
ऐसे हिम्मत करो यार
थोड़ा हंस ये प्रधान जी आप हाथ आगे करो अब एक एक करके उनके हाथ में अच्छी तरह किताब रखते जाओ सब रखते जाओ
और लोग भी रखो
हाँ रखो रखते जाओ हाथ झुकाना नहीं है सीधा करना है उठाओ क्यों नहीं पकड़े क्या हुआ प्रधान जी क्या लगा आपको किसी ने सहयोग नहीं किया था हाथ झुक गया अपने आप और सारी किताबें गिर गई अब आपको क्या करना है आप किताब रखते जाएंगे नीचे से अपना हाथ रखते जाएंगे तुम रखो और हाथ रखो हाँ नीचे से सब सपोर्ट करते रहो प्रधान जी आपको कैसा लग रहा है हम पोलिंग के गांव में यही अपेक्षा करते हैं कि आप सबका सहयोग होना चाहिए बहुत अच्छा लगा सब लोग आए नदी आई बैठी पुष्पा की ताकत बढ़ी फिर खास बात यही है कि खूब हंसमुख और कहीं पर अगर कहीं पर कोई चुनौती आ जाती है कहीं पर लड़ना भिड़ना होता तो पहले आ जाती है मैं तो जरा शांत से समझाती हूँ लेकिन एक उग्र भी चाहिए क्योंकि हमारे फील्ड में ऐसी चुनौतियाँ आती हैं कि हमारे साथ हर तरह के लोग होने चाहिए एक समझाने वाला भी होना चाहिए, एक उग्र भी होना चाहिए।
तूने हमारे साथ आना है ना, हमारी तरह बनना है ना तूने। और गंभीरता इनके अंदर है, तो वो गंभीरता लाने की मैं भी कोशिश करती हूँ। अभी उन्होंने मेरे बारे में बोला कि उग्र है, तो मतलब उग्रता को कंट्रोल करना मैंने इनसे सीखा।
झगड़ा भी होता है तो दुख दर्द भी आपस में बांटते हैं। ये है दोस्ताना। हम तो सब पैदल ही जाते थे, पूरा दिन हमको चलना ही पड़ता, 25-25, 30-30 किलोमीटर। पहले तो हमको उनके साथ पारिवारिक रिश्ता बनाना पड़ता है। अगर हम बाहर से खाली उनसे कह देंगे कि भाई ये काम करो, आओ मीटिंग में आओ, तो हम फिर वहाँ पर फेल हो जाएंगे।
आपने अब तक लगभग कितनी औरतों को ट्रेन किया है?
अब ये तो कोई हिसाब नहीं है, बहुत कितनी महिलाएं हैं। वो तो हमारा 32-33 साल का अनुभव है।
मैं जब से मेरी शादी हुई, सन 1985 को मेरी शादी हुई, उसके बाद पहले ऐसे हुआ बहुओं का, बाहर से कहाँ जाते क्या जाते। जब 90 के तहत हम अंदर बाहर जाने लगे, तब इनके जान पहचान भी, बोलचाल भी हुआ, तब हमको बोलना भी आया।
जैसे स्कूल में शिक्षा देते हैं टीचर लोग, वैसे तारा दीदी, बसंती दीदी ने दिया हमको, हमारे मैडम ही ठहरे हो।
जैसे ट्रेन प्रशिक्षण होता है तो हम 3 बार बैठे रहेंगे, बोर नहीं होते हैं। इनका कोई जो इनको जानने वाला भी नहीं होगा तो इनके साथ रहेगा तो एक ही मतलब 5 मिनट में घुल मिल जाएगा। ये है इनकी खूबी।
अब मुझे काम में ये नहीं होता कि मैं क्या करूँगी, कैसा करूँगी, सीधे चले जाती हूँ, अपना काम कर ले आती हूँ। इतना फ़र्क पड़ा। मैंने अपने गांव के लिए चपड़न बनाए, सुरक्षा दीवार बनाई और नाले नहरें बनाए, रास्ता बनाया और अपने काम काज में इतना काम किया।
हाँ, मुझे अपने आप में गर्व महसूस हुआ, क्योंकि हम भी गांव की महिलाएं, हम भी आगे बढ़ सकती हैं, बोल सकती हैं, चल सकती हैं, अपनी समस्याओं का समाधान कर सकती हैं। और फिर अगला
इस टाइप का होना चाहिए ना। पहले मेरे गांव में रास्ते नहीं थे, रास्ते खराब
वही
थे,
तो
इस टाइप का बोलो तो।
मेरे गांव में रास्ते नहीं, मेरे गांव में रास्ते नहीं। देखो नहीं आना चाहिए। मेरे गांव का विकास करें।
हाँ, ठीक बैठ रहा।
चलो गांव का
विकास करें। पहले बोलते थे लड़की है, ये कहाँ जा रही है, ऐसे घूम रहे हैं गांव में, और लोगों को भी भड़का रहे हैं, और ऐसे क्यों घूम रहे हो, शादी क्यों नहीं कर रहे हो। सीधा जवाब रहता कि हमको टाइम ही नहीं हो। बस चुप, सबका मुंह बंद हो जाता है उसमें। फिर बाद में हम लगातार गांव में जाने लगे और उनको हमारा काम दिखने लगा, तो अब जहाँ तक करते हैं तारीफ भी करते हैं, अपने बच्चों से कहते हैं कि इनकी तरह बनो, पढ़ाई करो। परसों गांव में एक महिला ने मेरे से कहा, क्यों तू अभी रिटायर नहीं हुई क्या, ऐसा भी बोल दिया। मैंने कहा अभी तो मैं आगे बढ़ रही हूँ, कहाँ रिटायर। लेकिन हम नहीं सोचते हैं, अभी हमारी एज इतनी हो गई, हम नहीं कर पाएंगे अभी तक।
बुढ़ापा में है, मैंने तो नहीं सोचा अभी तक।
Thank you. This is a film that we made for the Hunger Project's in work in India. A lot of my work has, as you can tell by now, been in the space of working with women, amplifying voices of women. And I'm very interested in how women negotiate their place in the world. I believe, and I've been extremely fortunate to be in different contexts in this country to see leadership of women up close, which is not to say everything is great. They make better leaders than men. They're just different. There is no competition there. I just feel like women are very different as leaders. The way they look at the world is different. The way they approach to problems is different. And so, yeah, and all this to say that it took all this work to reach Writing with Fire. We started the film in 2015-16 when Sushmit saw a photo story about the work of Khabar Lahariya online. It's a news organization run by women, led by marginalized women in rural Uttar Pradesh, in the Bundelkhand region. The fact that marginalized Dalit women were leading a newspaper based in Uttar Pradesh and had been around for 14 years is an incredible story in itself. So when we saw that photo story, it led us to sort of we were curious, and we met their team they have an office in Delhi. We met their team, and got to know that they were making an interesting transition to digital around the same time. The fact that a team of around 23 women, most of whom were semi-literate or unlettered, were going to make, when most hadn't really touched a smartphone in their lives, were going to start reporting, telling their own stories in their own language using smartphones. It just felt like the right cusp in time for a film team to sort of enter the story. They were very excited with the idea. They had watched, they were aware of our work. They had been filmed before for short films. And so, that's how we started filming. And we got invited to a meeting in Chitrakoot, UP, where they were discussing this pivot to digital. This is pre-COVID. And half the team wanted to, and half the team was dead against it. And I felt myself, in fact, both Sushmit and I, we got invited to be a part of that meeting. A lot of times when we are meeting people for the first time, the camera's not there. We're just meeting folks and you try to be as chill as possible and not go with an agenda of this is the film I want to make. But because this was going to be a historic meeting, they said if you want to film it. And we thought, if the footage is good, we might continue making a film, or we'll just hand over the footage to them. So there were 2 DSLR cameras, and I was doing sound. I had no experience in doing sound, but we had to be a very small team. But that meeting changed everything, because we both felt that we were in the presence of such sharp intellect, wit, humor, smart women who knew what they were doing, who had already negotiated their voice in the world and were taking this journey. And to be on this journey with them felt like an opportunity we wouldn't want to let go. So at that point, it felt like this film would take maybe 2 years. It eventually took 5. And the entire film is actually just 3 people. It was Sushmit, me, and Karan, our co-cinematographer. Sushmit and I were directing. Sushmit is also a cinematographer. I was doing location sound. That's a different, funny story. And so, because we couldn't have a big crew. Usually our crew sizes are much larger. We were in rural parts, mostly media dark villages, where people had never seen a journalist. So then to carry a paraphernalia didn't feel right. And more importantly, we wanted to be as discreet as possible to not interrupt the work of our journalists. Most of these stories were in spaces touched by trauma or grief. Sexual violence there's impunity. It's almost an everyday affair. Rapes of minors. It's quite intense. Different kinds of crimes, etc. So to be carrying boom mics and just, that just didn't feel right. Anyway, so the film took 5 years, and this was the first time we were working with women who are media makers themselves. So the conversations around representation, access, consent were much more informed, and we all had even though the film is about heavy themes, it's got a touch of lightness. The women have that sense of lightness in them, in the work, through the work that they do. It's a 1.5 hour long film. We edited it during COVID. We had no idea where the film is going to go because most film festivals had disbanded in COVID year. But the film was selected to Sundance, and very slowly we built an audience for the film, and it's had an incredible journey in the world in over 200 festivals and all these amazing awards. But most importantly, it's it's a story about India of today, and of um, by women characters that we usually don't see on screen. These are not women defined by all the extreme things in their life. They are in the film defined by who they are and what they bring. So can't show the film today, but I thought it'll be nice to see a small scene. The scene is based on one of the three characters. Her name is Sunita. She is my favorite character. She's someone who's ambitious, loves reporting on crime, is always questioning people. So she goes to report a story on a broken road in one of those super interior parts of Bundelkhand. As we are walking to the location, a group of people has come together because सड़क टूटी हुई है और कोई नहीं आता है, and mining mafia सड़क चला रही है, so just generally a lot of tension. It took us half an hour to just cross from here to here because the entire sadak is slush. It's just rained. And we just go there. And usually, when people in these villages saw our journalists, they would flock to them saying, Didi, aap aa gaye, ab aap, hamara kahani batao. There would be a lot of implicit trust, but this was different. And I want you to see how Sunita handles the situation. Could we play the clip, please?
माफिया सब काम कर रहे हैं पहाड़ वाले रोड नहीं बनने हैं ट्रक लगे निकलते हैं तो इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं। आप लोगों को जानकारी कौन सी चाहिए?
हमें सारी जानकारी चाहिए जो इस रास्ते से लेकर के दिक्कतें होती है।
हमको ये बताइए पहले पत्रकार कौन से हैं? चैनल वाले हैं?
खबर लहरिया से है।
चैनल वाले हैं?
मैं आपको बताऊँ, खबर लहरिया से है, वो पेपर भी है और चैनल भी है। तो जो चैनल है वो आपको यूट्यूब में मिलेगा और जो पेपर है वो आपको साप्ताहिक मिलेगा।
अच्छा
जी
हाँ यूट्यूब में मिलेगा। तो अभी रिकॉर्डिंग आप वो छोड़ दीजिए, हम कुछ बातें आपको बता दूं, उसके बाद में जो रिकॉर्ड करना इन लोगों की रिकॉर्ड करेंगे हमारे रिकॉर्ड में।
जी
आपको हम बता देते हैं यहाँ पे जानकारी। आप इधर कैसे आए हो बताइए पहले।
हम तो पैदल आए ना।
तो गाड़ी नहीं है आपके पास?
नहीं।
आपकी मांग नहीं है कि आपको यहाँ आने के लिए न्यूज़ अगर बनानी है तो आपको गाड़ी चलनी चाहिए? आपकी मांग नहीं है?
नहीं मेरी नहीं है क्योंकि मैं तो अक्सर पैदल चलती हूँ।
निकल जाइए
ओके
आपकी आवश्यकता नहीं फिर हमको।
हाँ तो ठीक है। मुझे सुनिए
कि यहाँ पे या कोई यहाँ एक अनपढ़ व्यक्ति भी नहीं है बोलेगा कि आप पैदल चलने वाले हैं। मीडिया जो है ना बाइक देती है, मोबाइल देती है,
ऐसा कहीं कुछ नहीं होता।
के लिए किराया देती है,
आप किसी भी
पीने का खर्चा देती है।
आप मीडिया के अंदर जाने के पता है आपको क्या रूल होते हैं, क्या नियम कानून होते हैं?
इसलिए हमसे उतनी ही बात करें जितना समझ में आए, इससे ओवर नहीं।
तो वही मैं आपसे कह रही हूँ कि आप जितना मुझे समझाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं इतना शायद अगर आप बोल देंगे मुझे मेरे कैमरा के लिए तो ज़्यादा बेटर होगा।
और हमारी डिमांड केवल एक है कि इसको बीच वाले पेज नहीं छापने, यहाँ जो इसको मेन पेज।
तो मैं आपको एक चीज बता दूं जो आप कह रहे हैं जो
आप बोलेंगे मेन पेज का खर्चा लगता है।
बिल्कुल नहीं क्योंकि जो खबर लिखनी होती है उसमें पैसा नहीं लगता है, पैसा आप लोग लेते होंगे। मैं वही बोल रही हूँ कि आपको लगता होगा ना, मुझे नहीं लगता है। मेन फ्रंट पेज पे छापने के लिए मुझे कोई पैसा नहीं देना पड़ता है, मुझे तो सिर्फ खबर देनी पड़ती है कि वो खबर लगाने लायक है फ्रंट पे या नहीं है।
हम यहाँ इसलिए नहीं बैठेंगे मैं चक्का जाम क्यों, मैंने किए मुझे महाराष्ट्र जाना मेरी बात।
मैं भले ही वो चीज महसूस कर पा रही हूँ पर मुझे आप लोगों से सुनना है, ठीक है?
And then she sort of like moves on, does her story. For me, this is a microcosm of the larger film. It's really about how you negotiate. your place in the world, your place in a situation, and tell your story. I hope that we can actually watch Writing with Fire sometime soon. I'm sure the film will resonate with all of you. Remember, I asked you to keep in mind a flavor at the beginning of the talk. What was the flavor? Right? So now I want you to think of something else altogether. Let's make it mango. Right? Don't tell anyone what you're thinking. Just stay with mango. And just as the last piece to show, I thought it would be worthwhile. Writing in Fire has traveled the entire world, but we showed the film first to the women at Kabaleria. During COVID, we drove down, set up a screening space in a small hut. And this is what Kavita Devi, who's a co-founder of Kabaleria, had to say after they watched the film. कैसे लगा आपको? आपने अभी फिल्म देखी?
तो मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगी ये फिल्म और मुझे बहुत गर्व है इस फिल्म को देख करके कि खबर लहरिया का इतिहास रचा गया है, जिसको रिंटू, सुस्मिता और करण ने रचा। और इतनी मेहनत के साथ में फिल्म तैयार हुई और कई जगह मुझे आंसू भी आ रहे थे फिल्म को देख करके, और बहुत मज़े भी मैं कर रही थी, देख रही थी। और ये भी ना कि खबर लहरिया को लोग जिस तरह से देखते हैं तो कई बार लोगों को नहीं समझ में आता कि हम क्या करते हैं। जो लोग इस फिल्म को देखेंगे तो उनको अच्छे से समझ में आएगा कि हम दुनिया का कितना अनोखा काम कर रहे हैं, कितना बड़ा काम कर रहे हैं। उस पर मुझे गर्व है, अपनी टीम पर गर्व है। तो और सबसे ज़्यादा मैं खुश हूँ कि ये कहीं ना कहीं कैद है। कल के दिन मैं रहूँ ना रहूँ, टीम रहे ना रहे, लेकिन ये एक सीन रहेगी जो आने वाली पीढ़ी के लिए, आने वाले भविष्य के लिए बदलाव लाएगी। तो हाँ, बहुत अच्छी लगी ये फिल्म।
And now I want you to think of a flavor which is entirely yours, right? A flavor that of a fruit, a vegetable, whatever, processed, hyper-processed food that you like. It comes from, and you've tasted it in your home kitchen, in your home first. It could be a packet of Lays that you tasted in your home, that's fine. But something that you really connect with as a taste, whatever it is. And if I might, just if you could shut your eyes for 15 seconds and just think about everything that this taste brings to your mind visually. Keep your eyes open if you want, that's fine. But just think about this taste, whatever it is for you. So tamarind brought a certain kind. I gave you that word. Some of you might like the tart flavor of tamarind, some of you might not. Mango is such a sweet, in many ways a very unidimensional flavor. It's just sweet, so sweet. People who don't like sweet will not like it. Otherwise, the rest of us are just in love with that flavor. The third one, whatever it was, is yours. Only you can describe it the way you will describe it. It'll come with memories, it'll come with its own history. It's yours. And all this to say that that's your story. And in order to tell other people's stories, we need to know what our stories are, where we come from, what makes us. Who has been a part of our journey? Who have we let go in this journey to reach here? So just to tie back to how I started, really, just hold on to who you are, what brings you here, because there's a whole world of uncertainty on the other side, right? You might get a job, you might end up learning, studying more, going outside the country, going to different part, whatever it is. In the space of liberal arts, and it's a very large space, right? It's so important to own who you are and yet be open to the possibility of multiple realities. That's what I've learned so far. Maybe in 10 years' time, I might come back and say, all of that was wrong, I have new learnings. But in the meanwhile, very happy to be able to sort of look back at my own work with you all today. I wanted to just say thanks to Kumud. I met Kumud at a friend's party and we started talking, and getting this invitation was super special. Thanks so much, Kathleen, for having me here, and all the very best. Please create your own flavors, have fun, break some rules, make some rules. But again, thanks for having me here.
Thank you very much, Rintu, for a deeply moving and a wonderfully reflective and rich talk.
Thank you very much, Rintu, for that fascinating talk. You know, we've had several talks over the years, and I think everyone will agree with me that the talks that remain in our mind were very simply put, but also, left us with a very thoughtful and deep message. And I felt that, your talk raised so many questions. I was fascinated by the way you brought in the everyday, for example, and how the everyday has so many layers. It's simple, but we just have to question it. And of course, the power, the magic, but also the difficulties of accommodating multiple stories. And I think that's an important message for all our students as well, because, they find themselves in a very, for some of them, it's the first time away from home, encountering many different kinds of people from all different parts of India and other parts of the world. And I think your talk and the snippets of the films, that sort of leaves us with this idea that we should not be afraid to engage with voices that are different from us, or ideas that are different from us. So thank you very much for that. Big thank you to Kumud Ranjan for organizing this, thinking of all of you. And he's been a very quiet coordinator, doing all the work in the background, but he deserves a big applause, so thank you. Thank you very much to Gargi Bhardwaj for also making sure that everything works perfectly. You've become a pro. We would like to record our thanks to the Vice Chancellor and to the Registrar to have come as well and attended the initial part of the lecture. And thank you to Simarjit and Ritu. I don't know if you are there. There's a lot of work that's required to put together an event such as this. So thank you very much for dealing with all those emails and all the questions and managing the logistics. To our wonderful student council, thank you very much. You came in at the very last minute, and I think we're all very proud of our JSLA student councils. You've also become pro at handling such big events, so thank you very much. And thank you to everyone here for coming. I'm sure you've, this really sets a nice tone to the start of the semester. We'll end our event, our commencement event here.